Gareth, thank you so much for being part of our inaugural Australian Intrapreneurs Summit.
Thank you for inviting me.
So excited to have you on board because you're a real thought leader in this space and have been globally for quite some time. And I know that you've been an intrapreneur, so you understand entrepreneurialism from the practitioner's perspective. And you also have a role as an academic. You know, you're professor of intrapreneurialism and intrapreneurship, so you understand it from a different perspective. So it's interesting that you've really straddled both ends of the spectrum there. So I'd love to just get a little bit of your story about how you've come to be in this role as Professor of Intrapreneurship at London School of International Business.
Yes, of course. I think what you say is really insightful because I didn't start life as an academic. I started life as somebody who was working in industry and sort of came across intrapreneurship. And if I just talk about the business school first, because of what I've done, a number of business schools wanted me to work with them. But to be honest, for most of them, they were still in the last century, not in this century. And I've got to be straight. Many of them were teaching the same things that I was teaching when I was learning in my MBA in the 1980s. They were still teaching them now in this century. So I never found a fit. And then this wonderful business school was set up, been around for 150 years, but wanted to renew itself, and came to me and said, we want to be the business school for the fourth industrial revolution. And would you be interested in joining us? And we got together, and because they're based in Africa as well as in London, you know, they wanted to take Africa to a different place. So it was such an exciting opportunity for me to become a professor of intrapreneurship there and to bring a whole community of thought leaders in the field of innovation, emerging technology, the fourth industrial revolution, social entrepreneurship. And so that's what we've done over the last 18 months. So that's sort of why I'm here and why I'm at this business school, because I think we're trying to do something quite historic, actually, for the world.
Yes, absolutely. That's so exciting. And perhaps that's a good entree into my next question, which was going to be about the state of play for intrapreneurialism in Europe. But you've touched on the fact that Africa's really running with the ball on this topic at the moment as well, which I have noticed. So maybe you could expand that and give us some more global perspective about what's happening in this space of intrapreneurialism in that part of the world. Because it's a very, very nascent concept still here in Australia. So I think you're doing a much more in that space over in Europe and the UK and by the sounds of it in Africa as well. So tell us a little bit about the state of play in that part of the world.
If you look at Europe first, I think for many years I was a voice in the wilderness. You know, I talked entrepreneurship. I'm sure you've felt that in life, and everybody would look at me and they'd smile and they'd be nice about it, but they just couldn't get their head around the word intrapreneurship, really. And I think what happened in Europe, and maybe why this has become a focus, was as globalization hit, there was a very keen feel of that challenge from the East, and how China was becoming a powerhouse, how India was becoming a powerhouse, and how Europe was in danger of shrinking. So starting in Germany, really, I noticed there was this real belief in innovation and from that intrapreneurship, and that started spreading right across the European continent. In Britain, sort of got that from America, actually. So we started getting some American thought leaders coming across, and that started moving it in Britain, but certainly across Europe, where I started working more first, Holland, France, Germany, that was their reaction to some very keen competition from China. And how are they going to survive in this new century? So I think that's where that's come from. I think, on other conversations we've had, it's quite interesting about Africa, because you talked to me a little bit about family firms and also traditional ways of thinking, which have stifled Africa, actually. And what you're seeing in Africa now, which I find so exciting, is a new generation coming up, often taking over a family business, very traditional family business, and thinking, we've got to think differently if we're going to bring Africa into in the commercial world. So I probably spend 2/3 of my time either live streaming out to Africa or being in Africa, helping organisations transform the way they work. So that's a really exciting piece.
Yes.
And I think Africa will become a massive powerhouse in the world over the next 20 years.
How exciting for you. That's wonderful. So can you perhaps give us some examples of wonderful case studies that you've seen over the last couple of years from anywhere, either from Europe or the UK or from Africa, that really illustrate this notion of how entrepreneurialism is taking off?
Yeah, probably if I can give you two, it might be useful. And if I can take them both from the UK, even though one's global, but I started in the UK with them. My first great success, I guess, was with a company called Northern Gas Networks. And Northern Gas Networks is a gas distributor in the north of England. And it's one of 8 gas distribution networks across the UK. They're regulated because they're a monopoly. So they're a regulated organisation, and they put gas pipes in the ground. So not a sexy company at all. And the CEO had contacted us and said, I need some help. And when he went in, there are 8, as I said, gas distribution networks. They're measured by the regulator on their customer service. So there's a league table. Northern Gas Networks were 8. They were the worst at customer service. They'd just been fined many millions of pounds because they'd missed their minimum standards. And the CEO showed me their employee engagement survey, which was so bad that when he said, what do you think I should do with it? I said, never have another survey. It'll just depress you. So that's where we started. And why this is an for me, quite interesting challenge was plenty of people had helped organizations become entrepreneurial, but not really in the regulated environment. So, it's quite easy making Google innovative. But a traditional gas company, who digs up roads and puts pipe in. And so that was a wonderful journey with some great people and an inspirational CEO who freed the organisation up. And what we started with was, I don't know if you see this in Australia, but I go into so many organisations and you go around and up on the walls there'll be a mission statement, values. Do you get this over there as well?
Of course.
Yeah. And the only time anybody would ever look at them when they're going for an interview, because they knew they'd be asked, what's the vision, and they'd say something and they'd say, haha, you see, that's the mission, really, as if anybody cared, So you had this organisation who was down on its luck, facing massive fines, morale horrendously low, safety record terrible. And so we cleared all of those mission statements off and we started with an ambition, the relentless pursuit to be the best. And to be the best just in 4 areas: customer service, safety, efficiency, and reporting to the regulator, because you can go to jail if you report incorrectly to the regulator. So, that was quite important. And then we got people together and we really said, look, you run this business. Could you just help make it better? And the only rule in that organisation from that moment was, all you have to ask yourself is, whatever idea you have, is it safe or is it legal? And if the answer is yes to both of those questions, just go and do it. And if somebody blocks you, you ring me. And if I can't unblock it, I'll ring the CEO and he'll unblock it.
Wonderful.
And that organisation within 12 months went from the bottom of the customer service league to the top within 12 months. It had the greatest safety record within 12 months of any of the distribution companies.
Okay.
And it had an employee engagement score higher than John Lewis, which is a famous a retail store in this country, which is famed for its employee engagement. It had a higher score than them, and this is for people who dig up a road and put some pipes in.
That's amazing.
And by the end of 12 months, the regulator rewarded the company with £19 million because of the work it's done. Oh, and by the way, they won 11 national and international awards for customer service and employee engagement. So
that's remarkable. That's remarkable.
Well, that was the power of freeing people, isn't it? You know,
Yes.
and that's what I spend my days, you know, talking about, just allowing all the talents to be used in an organisation.
Exactly.
So
they found that just by saying to people, is it safe and is it legal? Now we want your great ideas, and provided it meets those two criteria, just do them.
Just do it. Just do it. So not even have, because at first people used to say to me, so if I have an idea, shall I come to you? And I think, well, don't come to me. I mean, I don't know, just do it. So we broke all systems away as well, you know. Now, so the skill of that is by making clear what is untouchable. You know, when you put gas pipes in, there's certain things you must never do, you know. But for the rest of it, be free. So some directors used to say to me, you know, Gareth, you've let the lunatics take over the asylum, you know? And I'd have to say, no, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. We're giving it back to the sane people. And that was sort of true, you know? And so there might be a lesson for all of us, actually. I see a lot of intrapreneurship about big, clever things. I think actually intrapreneurship is about a million little things.
Oh, I love the way you say that. That's brilliant. We're totally on the same page with that. Wonderful example. And my goodness, talk about unleashing the power of great ideas and all of that wonderful talent that was otherwise languishing and trapped inside the systems of that organization and not being able to help it to succeed. And then it suddenly was unleashed, and in 12 months they did a complete turnaround. But that's because they also had the enabling environment. So obviously the CEO said to everyone, okay, we're going on a journey and we're going fast. You've now got permission to do these things, whereas at one time they may not have had the courage to speak up, knowing that they would be blocked.
Yeah, I think that was right. They were done to, and what we turned that around to be done with. And I know these are little things, but we just freed people.
Yes.
I think for me it helped a little bit because I had a strange path to academia. When I left school, I failed all my exams. You know, at least I was consistent. And and my mother went crazy, and my father just puffed on his pipe, and then it just said, you haven't lost the race, son. You've just fallen over the first hurdle, which I'll love you for the rest of my life for. And so I started off as the lowest paid job in South Eastern Electricity Board, which was the post boy. You know, I take the post around the office, and I worked my way down to be on the board. And it was a great learning point for me, because what I realized is there's no difference in the intellect between the post room and the boardroom. You know, there really isn't any difference. There's a difference in education, sure, but there's no difference in intellect, actually. So once you understand that and free people and treat them as adults, you can achieve anything, actually.
Yep. And I love the way you have made that distinction so clear about internal innovation not being about one big thing, but about a myriad of little things that add up to massive outcomes and great results. Now, you mentioned you had 2 case studies. What was the other one?
The other one's quite an interest, and I'm working on it still at the moment, but which is quite interesting because it shows how quickly the world moves. So I'm in a company called Anaplan, who internationally have a very clever platform which people can go on and they can plan their workloads and their finances. And it's been a phenomenally successful company. Started and it's global, has offices in UK, San Francisco, Europe, and it's grown very quickly. And what I'm quite interested in, I'd be interested in the views of others who will be attending your summit. So they're a tech startup and scale up, which is now finding themselves to feel a little constrained and a little old fashioned and stuck in their own procedures.
Yes.
Yeah. So suddenly they're having to, a bit like that gas company, what we're doing is reinventing them and freeing their people to be able to do things in different ways. And so that's quite exciting, because what I'm seeing more and more of new tech companies now actually having to renew themselves for this industrial revolution. And that's about halfway through at the moment. And what again we're seeing is highly intelligent people from across the world. But if you allow San Francisco folks to work in a way that's right for their culture, and those French folks to work that's right for their culture, my goodness, you can achieve great things. And before they were trying to have the Anaplan way.
Right,
well, now
across all around the world, yes, in all the different cultures, and not taking into consideration how to do things differently on a local level. Yes.
Well, I love San Francisco because you see that those folks in San Francisco, they will not be told, you know, so you can't just be command and control, because they just say, yeah, and then they'll ignore you and do something else, you know. And so that culture clash was causing real problems. Now we understand how San Francisco works. They're producing some of the best work for Anaplan that anybody has ever done.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that's more working on culture and about allowing people to work in the ways they want to, which I find quite interesting.
And in fact, the 2 case studies that you've just shared with us lead me very neatly into my next question, which is about where do you see the future of intrapreneurialism? How do you see this playing out as a global movement?
Firstly, I think there's a danger. And for intrapreneurship, and I think the danger is, and you know, we've talked on previous days. You know this. I'm working with Gifford Pinchot, you know, quite a bit now on different pieces, and Gifford's come to this realization. We started intrapreneurship thinking it was about innovation, and I think what's happened is we've gone down almost a cul-de-sac of innovation with intrapreneurship, and we need to be very, very careful of that. And so what we've got is a lot of models around innovation and lots of ways that you can incubate innovation, which are all good things. But I think actually, if we truly want intrapreneurship to spread, we need to understand that actually it's about culture, it's about leadership, it's about efficiency, it's about customer service, it's about employee engagement. In other words, it's a holistic approach to this. It's not about setting up a little incubator in a room, you know, and I'm seeing too much of that. So I come in far more from that holistic approach. And I think if we as intrapreneurs can properly answer those questions, that's innovation is one of the great outcomes of that, rather than the reason we do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's our future.
Yes, I completely agree. And it needs to be a cultural thing. It needs to be a state of mind. It's not even something that we do, but it's something that we be. Yes.
I love that. I love that. I often use a phrase, you know, this is just the river we swim in, you know, and I think that's what intrapreneurship needs to be. You know, it's not a thing. It's just like breathing. And once you get to that stage, you can almost achieve anything. So that's our challenge, I think, as intrapreneurs.
Wonderful. Gareth, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your contribution. You've brought some really interesting ideas and perspectives through this conversation. We will continue our dialogue, but in the meantime, if people want to reach out to you, they can just connect with you on LinkedIn. I suspect
yes, they can.
A lot of people in our audience today who, after this conversation, are going, okay, well, we definitely need to connect with Gareth. Okay, so
thank you.
we'll make sure that they get the spelling of your name so they can find you on LinkedIn, which is how.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great to talk.
Thanks, Gareth. Have a great day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.